26. Now, new government research has found 67% of employees experience anxiety on a Sunday evening ahead of the working week. It's as the World Health Organization has published its first ever mental health guidance to employers, including advice on how to create a less stressful environment. The WHO estimates 12 billion work days are lost annually because of depression and anxiety. Well, joining me now is Alice Hendy, and Alice is the founder of Ripple Suicide Prevention, a digital tool. Alice, good morning.
Hi, good morning.
Good to have you on the line. Now, I know that you set up Ripple Suicide Prevention because of a tragedy within your own family. I appreciate how hard it is, but are you able to tell us a little about what happened?
Yes, absolutely. Thanks so much for having me on this morning. In November of 2020, so coming up to the 2-year mark, I lost my only sibling, my brother Josh, to suicide. And I discovered that he was looking at some really harmful material on the internet prior to him taking his life. And so I've made it my mission really since that day to ensure that other families don't now feel how we feel by creating a piece of technology that intercepts anybody out there who might be struggling and who might be conducting searches similar to that of what my brother was searching for.
And no doubt you looked at things, found things on his phone, his laptop. Give us a sense, without being too graphic, what kinds of things and issues were covered in those findings, and perhaps, presumably, you were really shocked that he'd got to this state, and maybe you and other family members had no idea.
Yeah, absolutely. And some of the material that I found Josh was looking at was just horrific. Not only was he provided with instructions on how to end his life, but he was even provided with tips, encouragement from other members of particular forums, websites, and so on. And it's material really that, quite frankly, should not be available for anybody to access. We saw that in the Molly Rose Russell case that concluded last week with the coroner's investigation. Some of the material online is horrific, and it needs to be taken down, and indeed people who are struggling need to be supported.
You've created this digital tool, so please tell us a little more about it and how it actually works.
Sure. So it's called Ripple. It's a browser extension. It's available to download now on Google Chrome, Microsoft Edge, Firefox, Opera browsers. And once downloaded, it means that if an individual was to then conduct a search online relating to the topic of self-harm or suicide, that Ripple would intercept that search and instead provide that person with a message of hope that things would get better and signpost them to a selection of mental health resources that they can access both now and in the longer term. It's a free resource for parents, schools, colleges, universities to deploy en masse. It's also available to businesses. Just head to the website. It's ripplesuicideprevention.com, and me and my team would be absolutely delighted to help. It's an extra resource that you can put in place to protect staff and increase well-being effectively.
And since its launch, have you been heartened by the help it's given people in distress? Because I gather it has been downloaded hundreds of thousands of times.
It has. We're approaching 1 million downloads now in a 12-month period. It's also intercepted over 4,500 genuine online harmful searches. And just to be clear, these are really crisis searches. These aren't searches for well-being or mental health. These are searches where people are actively looking for ways and means to end their life. And even though the tool does not track or monitor any personally identifiable information whatsoever, we have actually had 24 individuals approach us directly to tell us that they are still here because Ripple and the charity intercepted them at their most vulnerable point. And that really is a statistic, to be honest, that keeps me going, as I am still very much a grieving sister.
Of course, I can appreciate that. Just to end with then, for other families who perhaps suspect a member of their own family is struggling, and given what happened with your brother, you know, I'm thinking a young person maybe struggling with leaving home, going off to uni for the first time, struggling maybe to get a job, or who've got money worries. I mean, given the current climate we're all in, you know, who hasn't? What would be your advice just for, like, you know, spotting the signs?
So everybody is different. I think that's really important to say. What might be some signs for one person might be completely different to another. But from my personal experience with my brother, subtle changes. There's lots of changes now that I wish I had seen and picked up on. Weight gain, it could be weight loss. It could be a lack of hygiene. It could be feeling isolated and subdued away from friends, not participating in any events and so on. But what I would say is please approach that person if you are worried about them. It's a myth that talking about suicide puts the idea in their head. It really isn't. The chances are that if that person is actually feeling suicidal, then they will actually be quite relieved that you've brought the conversation to them, and it will provide them with an opportunity to open up. So please take the time to talk to them and listen without judgment. There's lots and lots of advice on our website, which is ripplesuicideprevention.com, with an array of fantastic resources that are available to help with your conversations as well.
Alice Hendy, we applaud the work you do. Thanks ever so much for taking us through your digital tool, Ripple Suicide Prevention, against a backdrop of obvious tragedy within your own family. Thank you for joining us here on LBC News.